All right, hi everybody. Yeah, we're still going on with the Sokoban tutorial. We're almost at the end here. At some point, we do need to add a bunch more levels just to call the game kind of complete. But for right now, we're gonna actually go and fix some potential problems. The first potential problem that came to mind for me was in if we make it real quick and then we do dot slash Sokoban, we run it, if I just, and again, this is just a Z thing. If we go into like iTerm or something else, we won't see these X's. Hopefully on the next update for Z, we won't see them, but at a certain point, we may just switch to like NVIM anyways, because that's fine too. Anywho, so there's a current problem in our implementation where if the user just, so right now I'm just pressing like left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, right, just a ton of times. And every single time I do this, I allocate memory. Even in our alloc more thing, right? We allocated 50 commands, but at a certain point, we're just going to keep allocating memory and allocating memory and allocating memory. And if we just keep going, eventually we're going to reach kind of like a max amount allowed, if you will, and our program's just going to crash, or something's going to happen with the OS where we're using too much memory and things just aren't going to be great. And we kind of want to say prevent that. So if I just press QQ, right, and if we go to like log.txt, of course I can't, but you can see like we started off fine with our 50, but at a certain point, our allocations just became kind of crazy. And we're just going to keep allocating more and more memory until eventually we lose, or until eventually the operating system has to take control. So that's the first thing I want to fix. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to say in our pooled link list, there's a couple ways we could do it. We could say there's a max size. So this would basically become like a ring buffer. And if you're familiar with a ring buffer, you basically just start going like this because it's a ring. So once you get to the end of your array, your index will just come back to the start and start overriding what was there. That's one potential solution here. Personally, I kind of don't really want to do that, but it's totally a valid approach, and we could just make a ring buffer class where we say there's 100 commands available, and once you start to go there, you override it, and that's probably a better solution than this linked list. Now that we're actually thinking about not allowing the user to allocate so much memory that it actually becomes a problem. Of course, the flip side of this is that once we implement this max size, if I've just pressed like left, right 100 times, and then I press U 101 times, I've lost some of that undo history. But at a certain point, we just have to make an arbitrary cutoff. For me, I'm going to say it's 200. And after that point, we just start cutting it off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this size thing, and I'm going to go to game header file first, because this is where our initial pool size is, which is actually in our constants. I'm going to say this is our max size of 200. And I'm going to change it to max commands, right? And that's fine, that's fine. So now in game header file, right, we just have this. I feel like this new line just makes it a little bit more readable, where you have like your constructor and your deconstructor, and then you do a new line, and then you can do your other stuff. I also know some people like to put this. I saw a Cherno video yesterday where he was talking about this, where he kind of likes doing this, but it was also in the context of a class, right? Where you kind of have like your publics and your privates. So it would be like you have your like constructors, and then like you have, for example, your private block where you have void A1, void A2, right? And then for the variables that are private, you also do another private block, and it could be like int A1, int A2, something like this. And they were talking about it in that context. And then you could also have your like public like class function, right? Something like this. But we're just using structs, so none of that is super relevant anyways. And in terms of how I like it, I kind of just like doing it like this anyways. So let's put it back into this. Now we have our max commands. And so yeah, let's go to game C++. And what we're going to do is we have our max commands, So we have our pushback right here. Now this is where we're getting to the point where it may be worthwhile just to say, create another instance of like a max. We could just make a ring buffer. We're really pushing the edge of where I feel like a ring buffer would be great. Because basically what we can do, so like what we can do is we can say if commands dot size, and it's not a parentheses, is less than initial pool, or what is it? What did I name it again? Sorry. Max commands, of course, something simple. Max commands, right? We can do commands dot pop front. I think we actually do it. Yeah. Okay. So this is how we're going to do it. It's technically not the best. At this point, I feel like we should actually just implement a ring buffer. But this is actually totally fine. Where if it is greater than or equal to this, so basically what we're doing is we're saying if we've pushed so many that the size is now greater than max commands, then we're just going to start popping it. So let's go back into our constants real quick, and let's make it tiny. So it's 10. Right? So if we make it, we'll see one if I have any compiler errors, which is always good to find. Now we go into here. We're going to go into level 2, and I'm just going to go like this for a little bit. Right? So now everything is, let me actually, boom, boom. So now we're in the other one. So I pressed it enough where we won't be able to actually go back. Right? So we can see explicitly that we've reached our max commands. But now if I do it, it's going to work. Right? So that's our max command length. And that's working. But if we just make it to 200, so we allocate everything up front, we do it like this, Sokoban, boom. I'm moving around like a ton, right? Now I can just press U a bunch. And you can see actually we just have something that's not working. So that's good to know. So let's go back into the level, not the level progression, the game. So right here, if commands.size is greater than max commands, what we'll do is we'll add a log debug. We'll do a format, why not? Format, right? And it will be like, because we're just debugging, let's just do it this way, right? Commands.size, max commands, and then the error is that we don't have a C-stir, like so. So now if we make it, we can see exactly what's going wrong. And let's see. So we just do this a bunch. And it may have been just that I just didn't. Okay, so we do that. Now we're going to do log.txt, pool.get. So I think all that happened actually was I just didn't save the update, and that was it. So that's I'm just going to say that's working, and we can actually, I do think this is actually worth. We'll just do it like this. So if something does come up, we can kind of see it. And maybe we'll do it like this. Game, colon, like this, reach max commands. So we'll do it like RR, R for replace in Vim, and then R because we want reach max commands, popping oldest command. Cool. We could also like format it so that way we would show like the commands.size and the max commands, but this to me is good. I'm going to make that, but then we're going to stop there for that. And then what I'm looking at my notes, by the way, to see what we're doing next, which is the max level size. So this is an exciting one. So in Sokoban, one of the complaints I've had for a while with our implementation is this right here, where we malloc every single time we load a level. So for context, right now we just malloced for this memory. Now we've deallocated memory. Now we're going to realloc the memory. Now we've reallocated memory, right? So we're deallocating and reallocating. And we're not actually using realloc, which is an actual function. We're just mallocing a bunch. What we can do instead, if we're smart about it, is we can just, not smart about it, because right now we can make it better if we're smart by like using realloc and only mallocing more memory if we need memory. But we can also just make it like hard-coded, so there's only this size of level that will be accepted, and any level that's bigger will not be accepted. So our program becomes a little less dynamic, but it becomes a lot better, in my opinion. So what we need to do is first make our tabs a little bit easier. So we're going to have Sokoban HPP, and then we're going to do this, and then instead of doing this unsigned char star, right, what we're going to do, let me see if I can remember the commands. Yay, there we go. So this, and then what we're going to make it is, because each unsigned char is worth 8, and so what I want is just to do a little math in my head right here, is I want to allow for a 50 by 50 as the max level size, just arbitrarily. So what we'll do is 50 times 50 divided by 8. And then what I messed up, because of course, is I do this, 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 this. And then we have unsigned char, original blocks, 50 times 50. We have these hard-coded, so let's fix that. And what we'll have is const std : size t, max width is equal to 50, so we can make it like so we allow for more horizontal than not if we want, size or vertical. Max height is equal to 50, and I really think it should actually be level max width, because that's just a little bit clearer. So we're just gonna, unfortunately, erase our hard work for a second, and it's gonna be level max width times level max height divided by 8. And then we'll just have 8 divided by 8 divided by 8, because there are 8 bits in one unsigned char. Okay, so there's that. Now our Sokoban free can go away completely. We don't need that anymore. Sokoban, yeah, we'll come back to this in just a second. Sokoban C++, we don't need Sokoban free anymore. We're not dealing with null pointers. Now we are gonna have to solve this in just a second. It's actually probably worthwhile figuring it out now. So let's go into this definition right here, and it's taking an unsigned char star val, and it's getting, let's actually just see the exact compiler error. There's going to be a bunch, right? But we can also, while we're thinking malloc, right, we don't actually need this anymore. So yeah, we'll just delete that. And we'll delete this. We are in a pretty soon video actually going to be changing so we don't take this at all. But for now, it's still just kind of nice. We also need to, therefore, in the level progression C++ file, right, we still have this code to get rid of. We don't need this. What we do need to do is say assert, where is it? There's num columns. So we want this first, assert line.size is less than max, level max width. And then we also want, so this is checking that they're all the same, and this is checking that nothing is too long. And then we also want, because we're storing this, right? We want, actually, let me just do it here. Assert num columns. Yeah, we can just do it like this. Level max width, right? We don't need this anymore. But what we also need is assert level dot size is less than level max height. And it shouldn't be, it's less than or equal to, because we're using dot size right now. So we'll do a new line there, because that's just a little bit more readable, at least for me. So now we're enforcing that. So everything looks good there. Okay. We still have to deal with this. So let's see how we can figure out that. Now, my hope is I can do this, because really this is just, basically what this is just, there's just no detail here. Oh wait, why are we still mallocing? I thought we got rid of that. Oh no, we did, we just, yeah, that's better. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to figure out how to actually fix this. So let's see. So that's going to dereference to the first element, which is no good. Now, what we can try, I think that will actually just work, because it's the same thing. We're just losing some info, specifically the size of the array, which I am okay with because we don't use it. Right? Do we not use it? Yeah, no, we don't use it. Okay, so let's make and see where we end up, see if that actually worked. Game.cpp Sokoban free. We don't use that anymore, so we can actually just get rid of the deconstructor completely for right now. Now, if we make it Sokoban, let's see if it runs. And you can see we have some errors, which shouldn't come as a surprise. And that's basically that we aren't resetting all the memory. Let me rephrase that. We're not resetting all the bytes and the bits back to 0 when we reload. So previous things are going to be, like the previous level will affect the level that we're going to try and play. You can still see that this works, but you can see that there is some craziness now. So let's fix that by going into game CPP, and we can go, we want specifically to set this. So it's like, did we have like memset? We did have memset, but then I got rid of it. Memset, right? And what are we looking for here? We're looking for, let me actually get an instance of Chrome, and we can just look up the documentation. So we'll do memset, right? So we're going to set this to this. So this is what we're setting to, this is what we're using, and this is the amount of bytes that we're setting to. So first one is going to be state.blocks, right? The second one is going to be the actual size. So we just know it's 312, but we're going to be a little bit smarter. Not smarter, but just like why, if we decide to change it, oh no, it's this, oops. There, and then what we really want is like this, there. So let me do this, 3 times. Let me go into Sokoban header file. Let's go to the top, and we want original blocks. Right, so this is original blocks. Those are blocks. And then we want solids, and then we want switches. And then we'll see if that fixes our problems. If it doesn't, then yeah, we'll figure it out. Sokoban play. Now we do this, and you can see that's working. You can see the quit didn't work right there. So that's fine. Let's beat this. Maybe it was related to that. Okay. So we beat it even faster. We got it down to less than a second. Kind of cool. I'm not sure why the quit didn't work, but it didn't work for this one. So that's interesting. Let's see this again. If I beat a level, and then I try to load level 2, then I quit. Is it just when I press? So is it maybe when I open 2 levels? Let's beat this. Let's beat this. So yeah, we have a bug that I'm having trouble reproducing, but that's okay. We'll figure that out when we get there. For now, let's try to reproduce it one more time. So we do this, we do this, we do this, quit, and we get it. So now I'm going to go to log.txt, and I don't see anything that makes me say in the log file, right? You can see I just quit out of it. We get stuck in like go to game. So in level progression, right, go to game means we returned the game. And then in game C++, it means we got here, we got somewhere in here, and then we got stuck. Where we got stuck, I'm not exactly sure. Because like game over, right? This is just returning this. But if it was game over, we would be still totally fine. So I'm actually going to just leave that for the next video. We'll figure out exactly what's going on with this. But for now, what we've done basically is we've unmade it so that way the user can't accidentally break the game and make it so that we run out of memory by just like continually pressing, that's not a word, by continually pressing buttons over and over again until the game eventually breaks. So we've made that no longer possible by basically making like a ring buffer with our linked list. And the other thing we've done, which is a little bit more exciting, I think, is we've made it so we're no longer mallocing and deleting memory every time we load and reload, well, every time we load a level. So our game's a little bit more efficient, a little bit better. We do have a bug now, which is hard to reproduce, where sometimes when you try to quit out of a level, it doesn't seem to really quit out. We're going to figure that one out, but that's for the next video. And yeah, I hope you have a great day. Bye.